Jay. I'll explain to you later.
Good evening. I'll now call the City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for Tuesday, September the 16th to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Holst.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Mattson.
Here.
McCusker.
Yep.
Schoblum.
Here.
And Mayor Robinson.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. At this time, the chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Move this on to item 5, public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. There's no one out there, so we're going to move on. Moves on to item 6, public hearings. Tonight we'll be holding a public hearing for Resolution 2091, vacating part of Staunton Street. Mr. Maroney.
I don't believe it's necessary to dim the lights here. I think the council is fully aware of the location of the request that we've had for a vacation of Staunton Street. Initially, based on the application that we received, the public hearing was scheduled for our meeting in August, and just prior to the hearing we learned that there was a possibility that the street had already been vacated, so the council recessed the hearing to this evening. And as I reported to the council, in follow-up research, we were able to discover that by action of a council in 1921, this part of Staunton Street actually was vacated, and apparently, most likely, it was never recorded. So the actual request that we got for Staunton between 1st and 2nd had previously been vacated, again, by a prior city council in 1921. So in conversations with the city attorney, we agreed that it probably makes most sense now to continue this process. Actually, at the council's hopefully affirmative vote, we'll reiterate the vacation, and then we'll actually record it with Goodhue County so that the matter is permanently in the public record. So the street has been vacated, but again, we've recessed the hearing tonight, allowing any comments that there may be from the public. I haven't had any calls to me based on the public hearing notices, so I assume there's no objection or comments about the request itself. But it is a vacated roadway, and we're asking the council tonight to conduct the public hearing, close the public hearing, and then consider approval of the resolution, which again will reiterate the vacation of this street.
Okay, at this time, we will open the public hearing for the vacation of a part of Staunton Street. Seeing as there is no one here that wishes to address the council at this time, we will close the public hearing. And is there any discussion? If not, the chair will take a motion to approve Resolution 2091 that vacates, again, Staunton Street between 1st and 2nd Street. And the Resolution 2091 will be recorded with Goodhue County.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Merle, second by Bill.
I will abstain, Robbie.
And Leroy abstains. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to item 7 this evening, the consent agenda. Items on this area of the agenda may be adopted or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. Item A is the just and correct claims for accounting period ending September the 12th, 2014. Item B are the meeting minutes for the September 2nd, 2014 City Council meeting. Item C is administrative fee for extra duty details in the police department. Item D is event street closure. Item E, introduction and first reading of Ordinance 339, changing street names in the city of Cannon Falls. Item F, change in the ambulance bad debt recovery service. Item G, appoint Michael Guthrie as interim ambulance director. Item H, Resolution 2098, establishing procedures relating to compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code. Are there any items anybody wishes to bring down? Seeing as there are none, Chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. And that moves us on to reports. There is no formal council business tonight. So, Mr. Maroney.
One report, I know there was some conversation earlier as we were walking in tonight on the status of signage and the signage program out on Highway 52. I just want the council to know that we did coordinate a meeting this week. Jeff was attending the meeting with me through Senator Schmidt, who was good enough to contact the folks at MnDOT. We contacted Goodhue County, and we actually had a really, I think, productive meeting on Monday at City Hall with Senator Schmidt, representatives of MnDOT and Goodhue County, to talk about not just cleaning up some of the signage that was slow to be installed and getting that set up and ready to go, but also as a result of the ombudsman process that we all went through earlier this year, to reiterate to the Highway Department that there's still some unfinished business with respect to signage beyond the standard set of signs that MnDOT was going to put in as a result of the project. And we didn't want to lose sight of that part of the agreement, and thanks to Senator Schmidt, we were able to convene the meeting and have, I think, a very good conversation with MnDOT, and we are expecting some follow-up action with MnDOT. I don't know what the end result or what the outcome will be relative to signage as a result of the ombudsman process, but I think it was pretty clearly stated to the Highway Department that we're not done with that work yet, and we really do look forward to them cooperating with us to try to find some answers for signage beyond the standard package. So we'll be working on that as we move forward. So again, thanks to Senator Schmidt and obviously Goodhue County and MnDOT for coming to meet with us yesterday to talk about this.
Brenda?
I have no business, but as this is the last meeting I'll attend as ambulance director, I'd just like to thank you for the work you've done with me in the years that I served in that position.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.
Chief?
As Dave alluded to, we're working on several aspects of the signing issues related to 52, 24, 20, et cetera. I don't know if Ron sent an update out to council, but I just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed. Dave touched on our meeting this week. Last week, Ron and I met with some representatives of our business community down in the southern end of our city and received some real good information from them, tried to clarify some issues, and now we're going to be bringing that back. Some of it was brought back to MnDOT yesterday in the meeting. I know Ron is going to be communicating with Senator Schmidt and trying to work towards a resolution on those issues. Related to that, the street signs have been ordered. They were shipped yesterday, I believe. We're hoping to have the ones that do not require posts to be pounded in to be mounted before the weekend on as many locations as we can. As those get up, we plan on sending updates out to the business community to let them know which locations and that type of information so that we can keep them in the loop as that happens. I know the county's working at the same pace on trying to get their signs up on the county roads and the township roads, as well as other signs, speed limits, that type of thing that the county's responsible for. And then separate from that, this Friday is a home game. And I just want to remind people that, part of the area along 19 is yellow. It seems every year we get some people that are parking in there. Unfortunately, we end up having to take enforcement action, which means a ticket. We don't like to do that. We do try to, the first couple of games, to get people to, get back, get their car moved. But I just want to remind people to pay attention to the no parking areas down there. Also, there is overflow parking on the south side of 19. Avail yourself of it, but watch when you cross carefully, as we do not have the crossing area and lights installed yet. I know that's something that we're working on the permitting process for. It just isn't there yet. That's all I have.
Linda?
Yes, I wanted to ask which which evening you guys would like to reschedule a meeting for. The November 4th City Council meeting is actually the night of the general election, so by state law, we are not allowed to hold a meeting that evening. And in order to comply with additional state law, we have to canvass the election results between 3 and 10 days after the election. So I know in sometimes years past, we have met like that following Thursday after the Tuesday election, but that would not meet the state requirement of the 3-day minimum. So I am proposing that we meet either Wednesday, November 12th, or Thursday, November 13th. And that is because Monday, the 10th, is a Planning Commission meeting, and Tuesday, the 11th, is a federal holiday. So it's kind of a unique circumstance that we have to go that far out after that normally scheduled time. But in order to meet the state requirements, we have to do that. So I'm asking you which evening would work best for you, and then if I could get a motion to set that alternate date.
How would that affect if we had it on that Wednesday or Thursday? We have our second meeting the very next week. Is that?
So change I don't have a calendar in front of me, but change the second meeting in November, that one instead, and hold the meeting.
Well, no, I'm just wondering, did we want to have meetings a week, less than a week apart? I mean, do we need to do that? Can we have?
We're going to have a meeting
Okay.
that week anyway, so I guess it's up to
Okay.
you if you want to change the first meeting or the second meeting. Or what you could do is have 3 meetings that month if you want, but
I mean, we could do it the 12th and the 25th if we needed to.
change both meetings. You could,
You know, for that month, I mean, because that's going to throw a wrench into everything.
but then we'll be meeting the following first Tuesday
we're still
in
gonna-
December, and we've actually
Yeah.
scheduled a public meeting for that date for the truth and taxation process. So you're gonna be.
Meeting the 3rd of November, the day before.
Well, we can't canvass the election results.
Yeah.
Which we
Right.
have to do by law.
So, right, in order to canvass the election results, you would have to do it either starting on Friday, November 7th through Friday, November 14th. Those are the dates in which we could.
If we have to have meetings back to back, we'll just have to have meetings back to back.
What's
So-
the date of the first council meeting?
In November,
It'll be the 4th, it'll be the election day.
That's election day.
Just go with the 12th. Be done with it.
so
Well, I'm fine with either of those dates, I guess.
I'm good with the 12th.
Yeah.
Wednesday the 12th?
Yep.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, if I could get a motion then to reschedule the November 4th meeting to November 12th, then we'll have
So moved.
that done. Okay.
And I will second that.
Okay, motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Anything else? Is that all?
That's it?
Merle?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, I have some concerns. As we know, we got the report that we're working on with MnDOT regarding our south, whether we can have some write-offs or write-ons or whatever out there. What I'd like staff to do in anticipation of that report coming out, hopefully within a month or so, is putting together some numbers on a potential loss of tax base, taxes. We also have quite a few assessments tied up with a lot of those businesses. How would that play in, so that we can have that information, that when that report comes out, we can have the knowledge to whatever way that report comes out to move forward, whether we got to go to the state legislature, you know, our senators and representatives, whatever route it is we got to go. But it'd be nice to have all the information there, so when we get that report, we can hop on our horses and attack the problem. So if staff could, over the next few weeks, put that together to coincide with that report coming out, hopefully soon.
You know, Bill, when we're going to get that engineering report?
Supposed to be sometime in October.
Dave, is that your understanding on that?
It was one of the items we discussed again yesterday, and I think it's a matter of processing the information that SEH, who's the consultant doing the study, processing that information through MnDOT, I think so far has taken a little bit longer than MnDOT had projected. So as best we heard yesterday, I think we prepare for late October, early November at best, and that really depends on MnDOT's ability, I feel, to really process the information that SEH is generating for them to review. There's a little bit of review time required, by MnDOT.
Originally, didn't they say that, well, it'd be September, maybe go stretch into October? Now we're talking.
Yeah, they are behind, and they'll admit they're behind.
So SEH has done their job, but it's MnDOT that's holding up the processing or something?
I'm not ready to say that, but from what I understand is that the entire time frame has been delayed some from the original night that we considered the proposal from SEH and was confirmed by MnDOT that their review time was to follow each one of the submittals of SEH. And I think there's been several submittals made by SEH to MnDOT, but they didn't get reviewed as quickly as what was suggested in the original study. So,
And also, Linnell, if staff can look into who we may have to talk to, whether it's at a state, federal level, League of Minnesota Cities, National League of Minnesota Cities, so we have some names and stuff associated with whatever route, the council wants to try and explore.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to go. I mean, we'll have to start climb the ladder, most likely. But I think we can pull some federal side in there too, and see what we got to do when it comes to that. But those numbers will be good.
That's all I have.
Wow, thanks, Bill. It's exciting that I sit here and I listen. We're going to try to do some preventive things with this instead of wait for it to happen, because it's pretty obvious the waiting don't work very good. The other thing for my council members and mayor tonight is this whole overpass thing and all this has just pushed one too many buttons with me, and I think the whole thing is almost like a sin or something, how it all worked out. And I'd like to give you all a little background on my thinking on this, and the one thing I'll try not to do is put any emotions into this, but something has to change with MnDOT. This is just not workable the way they do things. I don't know of any small town that doesn't know their town better than MnDOT. I don't know of anybody that doesn't know their small town traffic patterns better than small towns. When MnDOT comes in and either tells us what they're like or what they're going to do or what they're going to change, I don't know why we aren't talking more about how we're going to work together instead of hearing how it's going to be all the time. Some examples I can give you is a couple weekends ago, they were doing blacktopping out there. Somebody came up to me and said that they didn't want to mess with things, so they went out to the new overpass and they were going to get on the highway to go north, and they got out there and they were all blocked off, and they said they had to come back to town and go to the overpass at Casey's. They said that there was all this traffic and congestion because trucks were going out there, couldn't get on, they had to come back to Casey's. Then that afternoon I was out on a call up by Casey's, and when I looked over, that overpass was blocked off, and now it had been switched back to the other one. I understand there's construction, there's problems, hopefully it only lasts so many days, but it just seems to get more bizarre to me as time goes on. The right-hand turn lanes and the left-hand turn lanes, they come to us and say if they are going to do it, it's our problem. we didn't ask for the turnabouts and the overpass where it is. All I ever heard of was overpass. That's what ended up being the final thing. Then we got the turn roundabouts with it and whatever. Well, that's all fine and dandy. Then I hear from the businesses out there that their business is down, and I figured, well, the road will eventually get open, signage will be up, it'll come back. But then I hear from citizens that like to go out to Super America for their coffee, and they said they can't believe how there's nothing out there since the overpass was opened up. I hear from the businesses that they came around like a month and a half ago and said you got to pay for your signage now, or otherwise we ain't guaranteeing you anything. And then there's extra money for signage. They set a deadline to close stoplights out there, but they never had the signage up when they did that. I just don't know how that can work. I can also understand if you come from the south, the one advantage you got is you can see Subway sign, you can see Country Kitchen sign, you can see Super America's sign, but now you're probably past, so why isn't there signage at the Casey's overpass that points them all back to this? So the other thing is they talk about development. If we get more development out there, it'll help everybody because of more traffic. Well, I can tell you that the old Highway 24 going out there, one morning out at Country Kitchen, I know I sat over 5 minutes. I think it had to be close to 10 minutes because the traffic was so bad on 24 to get on. They talk about the safety of this 86 overpass, well, or stop sign. Part of the reason we had safety with that is you could go sit out there and the stop and go lights stop the people so you could get on. Well, you aren't having that anymore, so it's steady traffic and it's more harder to get on out there. I could sit here and go on and on about the right-hand turn lanes. Okay, so we can accept the fact if we can do the study and maybe we have to pay for it, maybe we have to make it work. I don't think that's fair to the city of Cannon Falls, but we can pay for it, we can do it if it helps our businesses. But right now, they are really hurting and it's in a big effect. And I think this whole project, especially with signage, has been so mismanaged. And they talk out of both corners of their mouths. You can't have right-hand turn lanes, you can't have blend-in lanes. And then I go to Zumbrota and they have a crossing at the covered bridge and they just built it. So the hypocrisy of trying to do something with this stuff is just driving me crazy. And people call me all the time and tell me their concerns. If you're a caring person and you empathize with them, you know what's going on. But when we try to do something down here, it's like it's some kind of a joke. And I would like another meeting with the state. And if we can't get another meeting with the state, if we can't get some kind of better coordination, I am going to write a letter to Dayton, not because I'm threatening anybody, but people have to know about this. This is not workable. And it's gone too far. And it's affecting people's lives. It's affecting people's income. You can tear out the blend-in lanes, and then you can turn around and say it's 2 years before we can put them back. There was no helping us in saying we'll temporarily leave them in for 6 months till we can get this study done. There's all kinds of things they could have done to work with this. And I'm really tired of being pushed around, and I'm really tired of the fact that these people got this investment in their businesses out there. They have a high tax base. I also know that 2 years ago I had a big box store and a private person get a hold of me to see if we would annex out the 86 to that overpass And I told both of them there's no overpass going in out there. So my thing is, when that overpass goes in at 86 and you've got 2 miles of flat road each way and they can see the businesses, I don't think they're going to want to build in our hills out here on the south end of town. I don't think if they can spend $250,000 to get rid of the green clay to put their building up out there, and they don't have that on 86, I don't think they're going to move out there. And I don't know why that isn't a big concern of the state. I don't know why that isn't a concern to MnDOT. But this whole thing has just gotten to the point for me where I just feel terrible about it. I don't know how to deal with it. I have talked to Matt Schmidt, Tim Kelly, and I realize this is a dance, and we all have to do the dance together. But for some reason, we don't seem to have an orchestra out there, so I don't know what the hell's going on anymore. But I am really burnt out on it, and I wish the council would email the governor or whatever, and this whole MnDOT thing has to be changed. It has to get better somehow. Sorry about all that. Thank you.
Thanks, Leroy. I know it's a concern of everybody. I know we've all been contacted on it, and MnDOT is very difficult to work with a lot of times, and we're just going to have to keep pushing and not lay down till this thing's done to our satisfaction. Like Dave and them said, like Dave said, this project's a long way from being over with, and I called before they even took those intersections out and said, why not leave at least one of them open? Well, I'll look into it. We'll get back to you. I never heard anything back. So, I mean, I know exactly how you feel, Leroy, with those guys, and we're going to have to keep staying on top of them. I don't care how many of them we piss off.
Excuse me, Robbie, and I'll ask this to either Linnell or Dave. As I understand it, we're right in the middle of 2 MnDOT districts, correct? Is 19 a dividing line on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can convince MnDOT to move that line, I would suggest south, so that we're in the St. Paul district? I mean, I could see them moving it the other way, but instead of splitting, because we're on one hand, at times we're dealing with MnDOT St. Paul, other times MnDOT Rochester. I think that's also a hard road to hoe for us.
You make a good point, Bill, because the first time we dealt with Rochester, that was the weirdest thing I ever experienced. And finally seemed like when we got on the Ambia stuff, wherever it is, that we started getting a little bit of help, a little bit of direction, and then we get shifted back to Rochester again. So you make a hell of a good point that there's this
Well,
game going on.
Yeah, that's why I said initially move it south.
As long as they don't bring the Met Council with them.
Well, there is that, but we will have that Met Council issue if we ever annex out north too. So.
Well, and I'd also like to point out that when this recession was going on, we had things going on at our industrial park. We had people building here. We had things going on here that nobody else had.
Yeah.
So don't tell us that we aren't important to the highway, we aren't important to the tax base, we aren't important to Goodhue County. We want to do this dance together, and that's how it should be done, and it isn't being done that way right now. Sorry to interrupt.
When we met with MnDOT, I actually raised that question of we've got this project, and then next year there's going to be the project at 86. Are they going to be treated the same? Are they going to be coordinated in the same manner? And they indicated that they do work across the districts on these types of issues. I have to agree. I'd much rather be working with the St. Paul district. I don't know, Dave, your thoughts on whether it'd be successful in getting to relocate the line.
Wish for.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Because with the Olmsted Medical Clinic, that access was through Metro MnDOT, and we had
True.
a little bit of a difficulty there. But it's a point well taken, and we did discuss that yesterday too, on the basis of just signage alone. We tried to impress upon MnDOT, not just yesterday, but going back more than a year, that we've got some different circumstances here with this project. And jurisdictionally, one of them is we have 2 MnDOT offices to deal with, both of which control different parts of the transportation system in this community, both of which have sign authority. And I've tried to make it abundantly clear to MnDOT that I'm not prepared, we're not prepared to begin trying to suggest to two different offices of MnDOT that we think as a community you ought to permit certain types of signage north where the Metro MnDOT office controls or south where District 6 controls, and try to figure out and get agreement, because it is difficult to do that.
Well,
I think
how many cities in the state of Minnesota are divided into two different MnDOT
I don't know
districts?
the answer to that, but it's fewer rather than more.
Yep.
The other thing, Jeff and Dave, when you guys are talking too, is that clear back when Aaron was here like 2 years ago, we talked about our crossing down at that ball diamonds. First, it was an issue because we couldn't just have a painted crossing, we had to have lights. So then we went to the lights and we agreed to that. Then they were gonna put in the things for the ramps, and they built the highway and never did that. Then it was gonna happen next year. We're still waiting. We're still waiting on a safety crossing down there with these ball games. And in the summertime, we've got other towns that love our ballpark and want to play here. And we still don't have our crossings. And all this stuff, to me, is just not acceptable anymore. It's gone too far.
It is something that hasn't been forgotten, Leroy. I know that we're continuing as staff to work on that. Primarily, it's just because we requested to move it, we had to go back into a permitting process, and the reviews through MnDOT. We feel that at the end of the day, this is going to be a much better location that makes more sense for our community than where MnDOT wanted to stick it, as far as the crossing location previously.
So if the review,
Better term might have been where MnDOT wants to put the crossing location previously.
so if the review for that is taking this long, imagine how long that safety study is going to take.
Years? They just didn't say the year.
I think you had it accurate.
I may have. And Dave has had more dealings with the permitting on the crossing for 7th than I have. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to end up with something that is going to serve us, our community, much better going forward, especially with the usage of those two lots than we would have ended up prior. And then, of course, if we can tie this in with some other things to, connect underneath the bridge and some of those down the road, it'll really come together quite nicely, I think.
Well, one thing, don't ever get me wrong that I ain't glad for the staff down here and what you people have done. Because I have told my wife if I had Dave's office up there and the state guy came to see me, I wouldn't want that office because I think he'd be out in the river out there someplace. So it's very appreciated your patience and how you people can work with this. All I know is if I had somebody call me up at 2 o'clock in the morning is out of heat, and I told them I have to study this first. And then I told them the next day that I got to look up the name on their furnace, and I would get there like 30 days later. I don't think I'd be in business too long. So I don't know where the logic is to all this stuff. It drives me crazy. But I am very grateful for what you people do down here.
Well, MnDOT certainly brings the meaning of red tape to our highways. I understand your frustration, Leroy. In the 7 years I've been here, I've been working 6 of them to get MnDOT to stripe the intersection downtown to clearly define the driving lanes and stop the improper right turns. As you can tell, we still don't have the striping.
You remember when they came down here and we had to move the sign down here by the stop sign? How ridiculous was that? And that's okay. That's your rules. But how ridiculous is that?
It gets better, and I can tell you one after the meeting.
It just gets unbelievable. Oh, man, I got to quit, guys.
Jay? Jay, do you have anything?
Did yesterday in the meeting with the ramps for the sidewalks out there, was that discussed at all?
We don't have an answer for why there isn't a cut-through.
And there's more than one crosses that should have been dealt with.
We're scratching our heads, too.
Yeah.
We've asked for an explanation as to why that's the way that it is. We don't have that explanation
Thanks
yet.
for bringing that up, Jay.
Yeah.
It was part of the design.
Yes.
Morris?
I know I talked to a lot of people and people from outside our area, and as soon as you mention MnDOT, everybody says the same thing, that they're hard to deal with. So it isn't just the Rochester or whatever. And the businesses out south, I mean, McDonald's too, it's empty. I mean, they're getting hit hard, and I don't know what to do either. I mean, it's crazy. Something's got to be done. Now, they said November, but I don't think they said a year, so who knows? That's it.
Wait a minute.
Brenda, you've done a great job.
And on a lighter note, happened to be gone last week for a family emergency down in Georgia, and was talking to a gentleman down there, and came out that his wife was from Minnesota. So I gave him a business card, and my mom happened to be in the hospital, and the gentleman's wife actually worked at the hospital, and she came up, she says, I was in your town just last week. She was up here visiting her family in Jordan, Minnesota, and they were out at the campground, and they visited the town, and she really loved the town, and what a great town it was. And so, I mean, we're known all the way down in Georgia, so it's great to get news like that, even when you're away from home under different conditions. So good job to the staff, the citizens, and everybody that makes Cannon Falls the place it is to be. And we'll get through this interchange thing, and we'll get it to our liking yet, because people in Cannon Falls don't go down without a fight. So if nobody else has anything, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.